What's up guys, and welcome back to the We Want Picks channel. It is Artem MMA Analysis here. Going to be talking about Dana White's Contender Series week number 6. I'm coming off a terrible week, the worst week I've ever had on Dana White's Contender Series, unfortunately. The underdogs were barking, man. I mean, I picked all of the favourites to win, but I will say that I picked those fights before the odds come out. Same thing with this card, except now I'm recording with odds because I'm recording on a Friday night for me, and now the odds are out for Dana White's Contender Series, so that's pretty cool to get a gauge on what the odds makers are thinking, but I picked Dennis Gomez to win, and then from there, all of my picks were incorrect. A really big shame, as I was on a really good run. I went 5-0 on week 3, 4-1 on week 4. We've had a slip up this week, last week, sorry, and hopefully we can bring it back on week number 6. This is such a good card, man. I'm really looking forward to seeing how Matthias, Rebecki looks in there. But yeah, let's just get straight into the breakdowns. Don't want to make the intro too long, as always. And now in the first fight of the night, you've got Alex Morgan taking on Blake Bilder, and this is a pretty interesting fight because I feel like Blake Bilder is a guy that UFC has been pushing a little bit. He's been posted on the UFC Fight Pass Instagram quite a few times because he is the Cage Fury FC champion. But yeah, it's very interesting that they've given him Alex Morgan because I do think that Alex Morgan will win this matchup. It's almost a striker versus grappler matchup, but I would say that Alex Morgan's a pretty good grappler himself. Alex Morgan the striker, Blake Bilder the grappler or the wrestler here, and these guys are both pretty old to be prospects, I guess you could say. I mean, Alex Morgan did take about 2.5 years off after losing to Charles Jourdain. No shame in that loss, man. And he came back, fought a guy that was 7-2, and then a guy that was 10-5. But Blake Bilder, man, this guy scares me on the feet a lot because his striking defense isn't too flash. Like, he's always got his guard up, he's always got his hands up, like he's always got that going on. But he's always getting hurt through his guard. When he's got his guard up, he's getting dropped, he's getting hurt, and he always comes back. He always comes back. But the problem is he's not fighting the level of competition that Alex Morgan is, you know what I mean? He hasn't really tested himself against a guy that is potentially UFC level. His last win was over a guy that was 6-3, 10-5, 4-1, and 5-8. You know, he's just been fighting guys that haven't been testing him too much. But the problem is he's getting hurt in these fights. He's getting hit a lot on the striking, and I don't really like that. When you watch Alex Morgan, who's a really good counter striker, he's got pretty good footwork as well. And even then, Alex Morgan can mix it up in the grappling as well if he needs to. But I would say that Alex Morgan has a pretty good striking advantage in this one here. I don't like the striking defense of Blake Bilder, and I think that yeah, I think Alex Morgan should be able to win a decision in this one here. I mean, it is Dana White's Contender Series. The fights are very much more likely to end, but there's not too many finishes in the featherweight division in general, I find, and I feel like Alex Morgan, he's either going to get a KO or he's going to win a decision on this one here. I think Blake Bilder's going to be shooting for a takedown, shooting for the grappling transitions, but Alex Morgan's going to be fending him off and keeping the fight on the feet and just beating Blake Bilder in a mostly striking fight. Most people are picking Morgan, quite a few by KO. I think a lot of people are seeing that pretty suspect striking defense that Blake Bilder does have, and you've also got Morgan as the favourite in this fight. The reference line is -210 right now. I mean, that could change a lot. I'm sure money could be coming in on the underdog, Blake Bilder plus 180. That's a pretty sizable dog, but I'm going to be going with Alex Morgan to win this fight here. And now the next matchup, we've got the women's strawweight division, Viktoriya Dudakova taking on Maria Silva, and I'm picking Maria Silva, but I'm going to be honest with you guys, I kind of expected her to be the underdog. A lot of people were picking Dudakova on Tapology. I think that's because of her amateur background potentially, or maybe because her surname is Dudakova. But you've got Maria Silva at a -225 favourite, and Viktoriya Dudakova sitting at about plus 190, which is potentially a good underdog right there, but I'm going to be siding with Maria Silva. I like the competition that she's faced. Even before she fought on Dana White's Contender Series the first time, she was fighting somewhat decent competition. I mean, a lot of her wins are over debuting girls, which is always a red flag, but she beat a girl that was 6-0, and then she beat Catherine Paprocki, who took the fight on short notice. She was meant to fight Gomez Juarez, who's now in the UFC. And then after that, I'm pretty sure the UFC might have said something like, get one more win and we'll get you back on the show, or something like that. And she took on a girl that was 6-0 at the time, Awelina Wozniak, and she's actually a very good prospect that potentially could end up in the UFC herself. So Maria Silva's fighting pretty good levels of competition in my opinion, but Viktoriya Dudakova has got a very good amateur background. Some people don't like to put too much stock in amateur backgrounds, but I feel like there's kind of a level to it, you know, like there's the IMMAF World Championships or European Championships, which is what Dudakova won, and I do put a little bit of stock in that, you know what I mean? She did win the IMMAF Championships in 2019 by split decision, but since then she's gone on to have a pretty good run in the in her professional career, but she hasn't been fighting the same level of competition that Maria Silva has. And Maria Silva's the better striker in the matchup, in my opinion. Dudakova potentially the better technical grappler, but I think even out of the two, Maria Silva's going to be stronger. And a lot of the times that Viktoriya Dudakova is going for takedowns, she gets them in the clinch. And I think that Maria Silva's clinch game might even be stronger than Dudakova's as well. So if she ends up in that sort of area, she might end up on top of Dudakova and in a dominant position. So I think that Maria Silva should be able to win this fight. I think most of the time it's going to be going on the feet, taking place on the feet, and I think maybe Dudakova will be trying to initiate some clinch situations, but Maria Silva will either be pushing her away or just out-muscling her in the clinch, and I think that Maria Silva should win this fight. I feel like she's definitely going to be searching for a finish, but Dana White's Contender Series, no one that has won 2 fights on the show has ever not been signed, so yeah, I think with a win, Maria Silva gets signed, gets a nice 9-0 record, and goes into the UFC, and probably the same for Dudakova as well. She's only 23 years old. There's a super young prospect that they could build. So I feel like it's a win-win for the UFC, whoever gets signed. You've got Maria Silva, who's going to have an amazing 9-0 record, or Dudakova, who's going to be 6-0, super young prospect that they could build up potentially. So yeah, I think this is a great fight. I do think it's a good Dana White's Contender Series fight, and I think that the winner will probably get a contract out of the two. And in the next fight, you've got a very high-level fight at lightweight. Rodrigo Lidio taking on Mateusz Rebecki. I mean, both guys really could just be signed straight to the UFC at this point, especially Mateusz Rebecki, with the guys that he's been fighting and how good he's been looking while doing it, man. I think that Rebecki's got a pretty high ceiling in the UFC if he makes a good run here, but he's got to get through Rodrigo Lidio, and Rodrigo Lidio has dynamite in the hands. This guy's on a 4-fight KO streak. But he does throw with a lot of power. He's very explosive, but he seems to take a while to set up the shots, you know what I mean? I think that Rebecki could probably capitalize on that warm-up time that Rodrigo Lidio was taking in his fights to get the KO blows and shoot for takedowns. Rebecki, I mean, for the most part, he does have more KO wins than submission wins on his record, but this guy is a Polish ADCC gold medalist at some point of his career, so he's got a great grappling base. And only 5 submission wins. Like, this guy is very well rounded. He's got a few really good wins on his record. I mean, especially recently, he fought a guy that was 30-12, 11-1, 12-2, 12-1. You know, like, just good competition. You could say the same about Lidio as well, 9-1 and 16-5 in his last 2 fights. But I like Mateusz Rebecki in this one. I think he's just the more well-rounded fighter. I think if Lidio's going to win, it's going to be by KO. And I think that's probably the only way that Lidio is going to be able to win this fight. I think Rebecki, if he threatens the takedown, Lidio's takedown defense hasn't looked incredible in his fights, in my opinion. I think that Rebecki is that level of grappler to take advantage of Lidio's grappling. You know what I mean? And I think that, yeah, I think Rebecki takes him down and gets a submission. Everyone's picking Rebecki KO. I don't really mind submission because Rebecki, as I said, ADCC Polish gold medalist. He does have 5 submissions in his career. He hasn't got a submission in a very long time, I will admit. But if he's going to get it done, man, over Lidio, I think that it's going to be in his grappling. So I'm going to be picking Rebecki to win. I mean, very good chance he's going to get a KO. He hasn't got a submission in about 4 years. But yeah, he's got a really good grappling base, and I think that's his path to victory for sure. I mean, on the feet he could mix it up with Lidio, but yeah, Lidio's got that knockout threat. You know, this guy really does pack a lot of power in the hands, and I think that he does have a weakness in his grappling. So if Rebecki really wants to win the fight, I think that's definitely a hole that he could exploit. And in the odds as well, you don't really have Rebecki as a super wide favourite. I think it's because the odds makers know that Lidio could potentially get that KO. So you got Rebecki at -230. Rodrigo Lidio at +195 on best fight odds. So I like Rebecki in this fight. He is the favourite to win, but I'm going to be picking him, man. I do have an underdog on this card, so don't think I'm just picking the favourites. I've got an underdog. I didn't expect him to be the underdog, but he is the underdog. So yeah, let's move on to the next fight, and we'll see what my pick is then. Now, this is the fight which I'm picking the underdog. You've got Mateusz Pinas taking on Cedric Dumas, and I've got a lot of great things to say about Mateusz Pinas to give you guys a little bit of a background. I believe he's got a kickboxing background of 22-3. He's got a really good Muay Thai background as well. I believe Yuri Prochazka has been in his corner for a few of his kickboxing bouts as well. He trains with Yuri Prochazka, or at least has in the past anyway. And he's a kickboxer that has definitely transitioned into MMA correctly for sure. I mean, this guy, Mateusz Pinas, his first MMA bout was an exhibition fight, but what it is, it's an MMA fight, but with limited grappling. So it's basically a stand-up fight with a little bit of elements of MMA, and I think that's a great way for a guy like Mateusz Pinas with glory kickboxing experience, professional kickboxing experience, to transition into MMA. So he did that, and then he just started building up his record against guys that, weren't testing him whatsoever, I will admit. Yeah, a lot of guys were losing records, and then he took on a very experienced 18-10 fighter. He finished him in the third round, and then he took on Gianni Melillo, and I was so surprised when I watched this fight how big the crowd was at Octagon. Octagon is drawing in pretty big crowds. I mean, the arena looked like a pretty big arena. There was at least a few thousand people in the crowd anyway, and he wasn't even the co-main event or the main event or anything. So, yeah, Octagon's got a great fan base. But in that fight, Gianni Melillo was shooting takedowns, I mean, all the time. And yeah, Mateusz Pinas had really good takedown defense, but what I did notice was he was throwing not a lot of volume at all. And when I was watching Cedric Dumas fights, this guy throws a lot of volume, and I like it. He's also got really good kickboxing himself. I mean, I don't think he's going to be a fish out of water on the feet with Mateusz Pinas at all. This guy's got so much MMA experience. His one loss, a decision loss to Miles Lee, who is ending up going to be a pretty good prospect. I mean, if you're going to make a comparison or going to make some sort of link, Miles Lee is actually Donovan Beard's last win, and Donovan Beard is taking on Bo Nickel, sorry, later on this year on Dana White's Contender Series. So yeah, that's a little bit of a mix you can make. But yeah, he went 9-1 as an amateur. Then he did what you do, he built up his record quite a bit, and to be fair, he still hasn't fought a guy that has tested him too much. And as a professional, he's got a lot of early finishes on his career, but he did recently fight Aaron Hybar for Icon FC. Jorge Masvidal was on the commentary team for that one too, by the way, which was cool, because I believe he owns Icon FC, but we're getting really sidetracked. In that one, Aaron Hybar was shooting for takedowns, and Cedric Dumas ended up kind of reversing him. He was on bottom for a little bit of the fight, but he ended up on top for most of it, and he used a lot of grappling, and he showed a pretty good, well-rounded base. I mean, obviously, you're going to have a well-rounded base with 10 amateur fights, fighting since 2018 in MMA as well. I mean, Mateusz Pinas has been fighting MMA since 2020, so yeah, both guys have been fighting MMA for a similar amount of time, but the more well-rounded fighter is Cedric Dumas. And I'm picking Cedric Dumas. I'm picking the underdog in this one. Unrelated to the pick, but I think this guy has got a very marketable look. Like, this guy's got tattoos on his face. I mean, another UFC fighter that is very marketable is Mike Perry, or former UFC fighter. He got Sean O'Malley as well. I mean, this guy's just got a really cool look about him. He does seem like a very cool dude. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, he just seems cool. And he, as I said, he's got pretty cool tattoos as well. But yeah, he's the underdog, man. You've got Cedric Dumas at plus 145, Mateusz Pinas minus 170. I mean, I was on Mateusz Pinas for a very long time. I started watching the fights and looking a little bit closer into it, and I do like Dumas. I just like the well-roundedness of Dumas. I think if he can get the fight to the ground and use his jiu-jitsu base, he should be able to win the fight like that. I mean, grapple the striker. I think that's a good option for him, but even then, his striking's pretty good. I wouldn't say it's as good as Mateusz Pinas, but he's got really good striking himself as well, and I think the winner of this fight should definitely get signed. You know, he's got two great prospects. I mean, Mateusz Pinas potentially is going to have Yuri Prochazka in his corner, or at least Yuri Prochazka is going to have that little skit talking about Mateusz Pinas, but yeah, I've been talking about this fight for a long time now. 4 minutes and a half. Well, sorry guys, but yeah, just let you guys know how excited I am for this fight. This is a fight to be looked forward to. Even if you're on the Mateusz Pinas side, you completely disagree with me. One thing you can agree with me on is this fight is going to be amazing, and I'm looking forward to it, man. Most people picking Pinas to win. I'm on Dumas a lot by KO, maybe. I'm more leaning, maybe a decision. Maybe you see a decision of Dumas using his grappling, and we see him win that way. But yeah, I think this is a great fight. I think that the winner should definitely get signed, and they're going to be a great prospect as well. And in like the featured fight of the main event, you've got Yusaku Kinoshita taking on Jose Henrique. These guys are young, man. These guys are super young. Yusaku Kinoshita is 22 years old. Jose Henrique is 19. This guy's younger than me. And you've got a 17-year-old fighting on Dana White's Contender Series in a couple of weeks. Madness. But one thing that you might notice about this fight is Jose Henrique is 6'5". Yusaku Kinoshita is 6 foot, and Jose Henrique as well, worth noting, is moving down to welterweight, where he's been fighting at middleweight in the past. And even at middleweight, I'm watching this guy, and he's thin, he's lanky, and I don't know, man. I don't know how I feel about that, because if you look at him at middleweight, you actually kind of think to yourself, man, this guy could probably fight upper weight class. You know, this guy should put a little bit of muscle on or whatever. And now he's dropping down to 170. I mean, if he had really good outside kickboxing and great distance management, and he kind of fought like Israel Adesanya did, this guy would be great. But he doesn't fight like that. He kind of closes the distance a lot. He fights in the clinch, and he's quite hittable. He's got no head movement. He got beaten up pretty badly in the second round of his last fight against the guy that was 5-0. It was a split decision win for Henrique. But yeah, Yusaku Kinoshita, this guy, oh man, this guy's a savage. It's actually quite amazing. Like yeah, this guy's scary. This guy's a scary man. I mean, he went 5-0 as an amateur with all finishes. In fact, 4 of them by armbar, which is pretty awesome. But I think this guy's got a Jose Henrique covered almost everywhere. To be fair, I think that he's a powerful puncher, man. And his disqualification loss, it says grabbing the cage, and you would think grabbing the cage, like he was defending some takedowns and he was grabbing the cage defending the takedown. He wasn't doing that. He was grabbing the cage while like foot stomping his unconscious opponent. And like he was like using the cage as leverage. Like, oh man, like this guy's a savage, man. It's actually scary. I'm not gonna lie. That's all that tells me about Yusaku Kinoshita, is he's a savage. And yeah, he's gonna come out and he's gonna brawl with Jose Henrique. And if you watch Jose Henrique's last fight, or if you don't want to watch the whole fight, just watch the second round. He was eating a lot of bombs from Pedro Oliveira, and even then, you know, he was just showing great toughness in that fight. But I think if Yusaku Kinoshita puts Jose Henrique in that same position, it's not gonna help him, man. And even then, if the fight gets to the mat, I think Yusaku Kinoshita's probably got the better grappling out of the two. I think he's got great jiu-jitsu, and he's got 4 armbar wins in his amateur career. Like, I'm not too sold on Jose Henrique. This video could make me look stupid. But I think I'm just so high on Kinoshita. This guy's a savage, and that's the one way to describe him, man. He's a scary dude. So I'm gonna be going with Yusaku Kinoshita. I think he's gonna get the knockout on this one as well. It's borderline scary how savage this guy is. As I said, his 1 DQ loss isn't from like grabbing the cage to defend takedowns. It is to stomp someone on the head. So yeah. 67% picking Kinoshita. I'm on him as well. I think this guy's just a straight savage. And if you look at the odds, he's minus 200, which I think isn't a bad price tag for him, to be fair. But Jose Henrique moving down to 170, I don't know how I feel about that at all. I think it's an interesting choice. Maybe it works out for him, maybe he looks really good, but yeah, Yusaku scares me a little bit, man. I think they're going to sign him too, by the way, because he's a savage, and because UFC's really trying to build a name in the Asian market, you know what I mean? Like, they've got Road to UFC, which is an Asian tournament. I love that. I love that they're doing that, and I love that we're seeing development in MMA in different countries, not just Asia. You've got development in Europe as well. There's a lot of European fighters coming up as well, which is awesome. Not so much in New Zealand, where I'm from. Hopefully we see that change, but you do see a lot of Australian guys making a come up as well. An Australian guy is fighting on week number 10, which is pretty cool. Sorry guys, let's end the video there. Just to kind of clarify, I've got Alex Morgan, Viktoriya Dudakova, Matthias Rebecki, Cedric Dumas, and Yusaku Kinoshita. And this one here, it's gonna be a crazy fight night, man. It's gonna it's gonna be awesome. I'm really excited, man. I really am. I love Dana White's Contender Series. I didn't love last week, but I love Dana White's Contender Series. It does hold a pretty special place in my heart. And yeah, let's just leave it here. I've been rambling for a little bit. Thank you guys very much for watching the We Want Picks YouTube channel. I'm Artem MMA Analysis, and this was Dana White's Contender Series 2022 Week 6 Quick Picks.